They thought I was just fixing her veil, but I was adjusting the microphone hidden beneath it. They smiled for the photographers, not knowing every lie she ever whispered was about to echo through the speakers. My name is Mara. I'm 34 years old, and this is how I turned the sister I loved into the woman who taught me how to stop bleeding for family. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're listening from. I love knowing how far these stories travel. Back then, I thought loyalty meant silence, but silence can become a weapon in the wrong hands. This story hurt in the best way, and it starts long before the wedding. I grew up in a small coastal town, one of those places where the salt sticks to your windows, and everyone knows what color your bed sheets are, because they saw them drying on the clothesline. My sister, Lena, was 2 years younger, prettier, louder, more visible. She filled the room like sunlight, catching dust, and I learned very early that if she was light, I was supposed to be the shade behind her. Our mother encouraged it. She'd beam at Lena's beauty, her charm, her voice. And when I brought home awards or projects, she'd smile politely, like she was trying to be proud but didn't quite know how. Not everyone has to shine, she'd say. Some girls are better as the steady ones. I was the steady one. I didn't fight it. I became the girl who fixed broken things, stitching dress hems, running errands, helping with homework, teaching Lena how to contour her cheekbones before she ever stepped into the world as the pretty one. But here's what no one tells you about being the steady one. People start to believe you don't feel anything, like you're some kind of emotional sponge whose job is to absorb hurt without dripping. But I felt everything. I just learned to tuck those feelings behind a polite smile. My dream, the one thing that was mine. I wasn't popular, but I was bright. And by some miracle, I got a scholarship to study architecture, the one thing I had always been obsessed with. When I was little, I used to draw houses for fun. Not princess mansions or castles. Homes. Places that felt safe, warm, lit from inside. Maybe because ours never felt like that. College was where I found myself. I learned to build things that lasted. Smooth lines, soft curves, foundations that could survive storms. I interned at a boutique firm in the city. Tiny office, tall windows, boss with round glasses who always smelled faintly of cedar and ink. She took one look at my portfolio and said, "You draw like you're telling a story." I didn't know what that meant then, but I would. Her name was Daria, and she was the first person who ever said, "You're not background, you're the blueprint." I was 26, quiet, mostly invisible, but for the first time, I felt like someone saw me. Meanwhile, Lena was becoming. Lena, while I was building my life brick by brick, Lena bloomed into the town's golden girl. Beautiful, flirtatious, good at making people feel chosen. She became a lifestyle influencer, if you can believe it. Just taking pictures of herself at brunch, writing captions like, "Love yourself, babe," while living off our parents' money. She grew fast because she grew pretty. And in our town, that's its own currency. Then she met Marcus. Tall, charismatic, came from an old family with a last name people whispered with respect. She posted him like he was a limited edition bag. He posted her like she was a blessing he prayed for every night. They looked perfect together. At least, online. The betrayal didn't come all at once. It came in small slices. Paper cuts. Little moments I ignored because I wanted to believe family meant safety. It started when my firm was holding a competition. A chance to design a community center for our hometown. A place for kids, seniors, families. This was my dream project. My name, my story, my chance. And I told Lena about it. Stupidly, naively, because despite everything, I believed she cared. I remember sitting on her couch, sketchbook on my lap, rain tapping the windows, her scrolling through her phone as I talked. I wanted to feel like a place where people can breathe, I said. She nodded absent-mindedly. "You're so creative, Mara," she murmured. "Seriously, it's impressive." I should have known she only complimented me when she needed something. A week later, just 7 days, my firm called me in. Daria closed the door, sat across from me, hair expression somber. "Did you collaborate with anyone on your proposal?" she asked. "No," I said, confused. She exhaled, turned her laptop around, and there it was. My design, my sketches, my layout, my vision, posted on Lena's lifestyle blog, with the caption, "Our future community center design. So proud to partner on this." I felt the blood drain from my face. I didn't. My voice cracked. I didn't give her permission. "Then why is your name nowhere on it?" Daria asked softly. I couldn't speak. Everything inside me shattered like glass under a hammer. The accusation that broke me. I confronted Lena that evening. I didn't shout. I never shout. "Why did you post my design?" I asked quietly. She rolled her eyes. "Mara, relax. You should be thanking me. My platform gives exposure." "It was for a competition," I whispered. "Oh." She blinked, suddenly defensive. "Well, maybe if you told me that, I wouldn't have posted it. Don't blame me for your lack of communication. Gaslighting. Clean. Polished. Practiced. I did tell you," I said. "You didn't," she snapped. "You're remembering wrong. You always twist things to make yourself the victim." That sentence, that one poisoned seed, she had used it before. She would use it many times after. I left shaking. And the competition? I withdrew, quietly, with humiliation burning in my throat. The damage was done. Then she crossed a line I didn't think she was capable of. 3 months later, I found out why she had stolen my design. She needed to impress Marcus's family. They wanted a woman with ambition, accomplishments. Lena had none, so she stole mine. And when Marcus proposed, on a beach, during sunset, with a professional photographer, my design was still on her website. Even worse, in the engagement announcement article, she claimed she used to dream of being an architect. That was my childhood dream. My secret. The one I kept close, like a fragile, glowing thing. And she plucked it from my hands, like it was nothing. "Please don't make this about you," she said when I brought it up. "This is my moment. Don't ruin it with your jealousy." Jealousy. Always that word. The one she used like a blade. By the time the wedding plans began, I had learned how to disappear so well, I barely recognized myself. I hated her, and I hated myself more for letting her do it. I became a ghost at my own life. Work felt heavy. My drawings looked lifeless. Food tasted dull. I lost weight. Not dramatically. Just enough that my clothes felt loose, like I was slipping out of myself. I stopped answering calls. Stopped going out. Stopped dreaming. Everything I built felt stolen. Contaminated. My sister, the girl I taught to braid her hair, the girl I protected in school, the girl I loved with a tenderness I never admitted, had hollowed me out. And no one knew, because I was the steady one. The background, the blueprint. And blueprints don't cry. My parents dismissed it. "Mara, let it go. She didn't mean harm. It was just a misunderstanding. Family doesn't owe each other credit. You should be proud she liked it." Proud. That was the word. I had to be proud that my own sister stole my story and wore it like a bridal gown. Sometimes at night, I'd wake up from dreams where I was screaming, but my voice wouldn't come out. Just air. Just silence. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I just wanted to be real again. But pain has a way of becoming fuel. The turning point came unexpectedly. It wasn't dramatic. I was in my office late. Fluorescent lights buzzing, city lights glowing like distant fires. My hand numb from sketching the same line over and over. Daria walked in. She set a warm cup of tea beside me. She didn't force conversation, just stood there. After a moment, she said quietly, "You know, even the strongest structures collapse if you overload the foundation." I swallowed hard. She continued, voice softer. But if you rebuild it correctly, it becomes earthquake-proof. I looked up at her, eyes burning. "You're not angry at your sister," she said gently. "You're angry that you let her break you." Something inside me cracked open. Not painfully, more like release. She gave me something that night. Not sympathy, but permission. Permission to reclaim what was mine. And so slowly, quietly, I started rewriting the story. The rebuild. Momentum increases, but tone remains soft, deliberate. I spent weeks recovering my work, my identity, my voice. I gathered screenshots, emails, timestamps, everything proving the design was mine. I rebuilt my portfolio from scratch. I redrew the original design, better this time. Sharper lines, deeper intention, like carving truth into paper, and I submitted it to a different competition. One Lena didn't know about, a national one. The night I clicked submit, I realized my hands weren't trembling anymore. Revenge wasn't my goal. Not then, but clarity was. I was done shrinking, so she could feel big. The unexpected ally. Around this time, someone reached out. Marcus. Yes, the fiancé. He messaged me privately. "Can we talk? It's about Lena." I almost ignored him, but something in his tone, polite, hesitant, worried, made me agree. We met at a coffee shop. Cold day, rain streaking the windows. The smell of wet wool and espresso in the air. He looked tired. "I'm just going to ask," he said softly. "Did you design the community center? The one Lena's been showing everyone?" My chest tightened. "Yes," I replied. His shoulders sagged, like he'd been waiting for confirmation he already suspected. "I thought so," he whispered. "She avoids questions whenever I ask. And when I pushed, she said you gave it to her as a gift." I laughed, quiet and humorless. "No," I said, "I didn't." He nodded slowly, then rubbed his face with both hands. "I love her," he murmured, "but she lies so easily, and she thinks I won't notice." I didn't respond. He wasn't asking for advice. He was confessing. Before he left, he hesitated. "If she ever hurts you again," he said quietly, "tell me. I don't want to build a life on someone else's stolen ground." Stolen ground? Those words echoed, foreshadowing everything. And then came the engagement dinner. This is where part one ends. But I need to tell you what set everything else in motion. The engagement dinner was held at a vineyard. Golden hour. Lanterns floating like fireflies. Soft music. Everything perfect. Too perfect. Lena, glowing in white silk, raised her glass and gave a speech about her design dreams, her fake passion, her creative journey. She even said, and I remember the exact words, "I guess talent runs in the family, but I'm the one who actually made something of mine." Everyone laughed. My parents clapped. Marcus stared at the table, jaw tight. And me? I sat there, smiling that steady smile that had trapped me my whole life. But under the tablecloth, my hands were curled into fists. And that was the night I decided I wasn't just going to reclaim my story. I was going to expose hers. In front of everyone, at the wedding, where the world thought she was perfect, where she would stand as a bride, wearing white, wearing lies, wearing a stolen dream. And I would be the one to take back what she stole, inch by inch, not as revenge, but as truth, because she stole my story, and I was going to rewrite the ending. The wedding countdown. 3 months before the wedding, Lena sent me a text that changed everything. Not an apology, not acknowledgement, not even a thank you. No, she sent me a photo of her wedding dress, captioned, "You'll help with the final fittings, right? You're good with details, always have been. Good with details." I stared at the message for a long time, the glow of my phone screen washing over my face like a soft, mocking spotlight. I wasn't her sister. I was her unpaid labor, her quiet convenience, her invisible scaffolding. But I typed, "Sure," because I wasn't ready to tip my hand. Not yet. The festering months. Planning a wedding is supposed to make people glow. Lena radiated so much she practically blinded everyone. Me? I watched her rehearsed joy and felt something darker growing inside me. Not hatred. Not exactly. More like clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. Every time she bragged, every time she lied, every time she used my ideas as her props. I took notes. Literal notes. Dates, times, screenshots, voice memos. I cataloged her deception like a quiet archivist, building a museum of truth. A museum I intended to open. At the perfect moment. The night with Marcus. 2 months before the wedding. Marcus called me. Not texted. Called. His voice was low. Strained. Like someone trying not to crumble. "Can you meet me?" he asked. He hesitated. But something in his tone, a tremor he couldn't hide, pushed me to agree. We met in a parking lot near the pier. Wind whipping through the air. Streetlights flickering like nervous breaths. He leaned against his car, jaw clenched, hands in his pockets. "She lied again," he said quietly. I didn't ask about what. He kept talking. "She said she designed the barn venue, the whole architectural concept. But the owner told me he worked with someone named Mara years ago." He looked at me, eyes full of apology he didn't owe. "That was you, wasn't it?" I nodded. He exhaled, shoulders dropping. "Your sister. I don't know who she is anymore." A painful silence settled between us. Heavy, cold like the ocean spray drifting in the wind. I finally asked, "Why tell me this?" He looked away, then back, voice barely above a whisper. "Because I don't know what to do," he murmured. "And I think you're the only one who's ever told her the truth." I almost laughed. Soft. Sad. "I stopped telling her the truth years ago," I said. "She didn't want it." His face fell. He nodded slowly, eyes shining in the streetlight. "I wish she were more like you," he said. Not flirtatiously. Not inappropriately. Just exhaustedly honest. I didn't respond. Some things don't need echoes. When he left, I stood there for a moment, breathing in the smell of salt and asphalt and the faint, distant sweetness of funnel cakes from the boardwalk. And for the first time, I felt something shift. Not between us, but inside me, a quiet understanding. Lena wasn't just stealing from me. She was building her life on stolen foundations. And sooner or later, foundation crack. The final fitting, 2 weeks before the wedding, came the moment that crystallized my resolve. The bridal boutique was bright and over-scented, a wall of mirrors reflecting back versions of us. I didn't recognize. Lena stood on the pedestal, draped in lace and arrogance. Her friends circled her like adoring planets. I sat on a velvet bench, watching her pose. When the seamstress stepped away, Lena looked at me through the mirror. Smirked. "You know," she said, tilting her head, "I'm surprised you're taking this so well." I didn't speak. She continued, "You're usually more reactive, sensitive, but you're actually behaving." I kept my expression still. Neutral, a mirror she couldn't read. She stepped down, walked toward me, her dress trailing like a ghost behind her. "I know you were upset about the design thing," she whispered, "but you get emotional. You exaggerate. And I didn't want your negativity ruining my engagement." Negativity. My negativity. I inhaled slowly. Silent. She leaned in closer, voice dropping to a cold murmur. "Be grateful, Mara. I've given you a role in my life when you could have easily been irrelevant." My heart didn't break. Not this time. It hardened. I looked at her reflection, her bright, hollow smile, her eyes that glittered like polished lies. And inside my mind, a quiet voice whispered, "This ends at the wedding. All of it. The pre-wedding family dinner. 4 nights before the ceremony, our parents hosted a family dinner. Long table, roast chicken, dim lights, everyone pretending nothing was wrong. Lena arrived late, wearing a white jumpsuit that screamed, 'Look at me.' She talked nonstop about the floral arrangements she selected, ideas she stole from my Pinterest board. about the speeches she expected, which she assigned to people like duties, and about how Marcus's family loved her vision for the marriage. At one point, she looked at me and said, "And you, Mara, make sure your dress doesn't clash with my color palette. This is my moment." My mother chuckled lightly. "Your sister likes to be in control," she said. "She likes to take," I thought, but I stayed quiet. Then came the moment I didn't expect. Marcus's mother cleared her throat. She looked at me, not at Lena, at me. "I visited the barn venue," she said gently. "The owner told me someone named Mara designed the renovation blueprint years ago." "Is that you, dear?" Lena's face froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. My parents turned to me, waiting, watching, and I said nothing, absolutely nothing, because silence is powerful when used intentionally. Lena jumped in. She helped. She gave me some emotional guidance, and I sort of expanded the idea. Marcus's mother kept her gaze on me. "Is that true?" I smiled politely. "It's Lena's wedding, her story." A slow, keyed answer, one that meant nothing and everything. Lena visibly relaxed. My parents nodded as if I'd done something noble. But Marcus stared at me, like he finally understood something he wasn't ready to face. The moment that sealed her fate. Later that night, while I was helping clear the table, I overheard Lena whispering to her friend in the hallway. Her voice was sharp, nasty in a way she never showed publicly. "She should be grateful I didn't expose her," she hissed. Pause. Her friend murmured something I couldn't hear. Then Lena said it, the line that carved itself into me forever. "Mara wouldn't have a career if she didn't copy me growing up. Everything she does, I did first. She's always been a step behind me." I froze, a stack of plates heavy in my hands, the warmth of the kitchen lights suddenly suffocating. Copy her? Copy her? She had stolen my childhood dream, my work, my voice. And now she was rewriting history to make herself the victim. Something inside me snapped, quietly. Finally, she stole my story, and I was done letting her hold the pen. The plan, revenge didn't come to me like a spark. It arrived slowly, measured, calm, inevitable, like architecture. Every part needed placement, structure, intention, and I had everything I needed. Her lies, her stolen posts, her messages, her voice recordings, her plagiarism, and Marcus unintentionally becoming the witness. I never expected, but I needed one more thing: a stage. And what better stage than the wedding? A room full of guests, family, friends, his wealthy relatives, her entire curated audience, a microphone, a projector screen, a perfect bride standing in perfect white, with my stolen life sewn into every seam. But I wasn't going to scream or call her out. No, I was going to do something far more devastating. I was going to let her expose herself. All I needed was the right spark at the right moment. 2 days before the wedding, on rehearsal day, the venue buzzed with florists, coordinators, and family members pretending to be helpful. I arrived early. As one of the bridesmaids, I had access to the sound booth. The tech team knew me. I'd worked with them at the barn years back during my design project. While everyone was outside taking photos, I slipped into the booth, plugged in my USB, uploaded a single audio file, named innocently, "Bride's Surprise Message." The sound technician, an older man with a gentle beard and tired eyes, smiled as he scanned the schedule. "Got it. We'll play this right before the speeches, as requested." I nodded. Perfect. My heart beat slowly, controlled, steady, not with fear, with certainty. The calm before the story blows open. Later, during the rehearsal dinner, Lena pulled me aside. She smelled like champagne and expensive perfume. Her eyes glittered with shallow affection. "I know I've been hard on you," she said lightly, "and I know you're sensitive. So I just want to say thank you. for being the supportive sister, the one I can rely on. Oh, I forced a smile. Her gratitude wasn't real. It was performance. She squeezed my hands. Don't embarrass me tomorrow, okay? There it was. The truth wrapped in a joke. The control wrapped in sweetness. I nodded. Softly, I won't. She hugged me, not noticing how stiff I was. How distant. Because people like Lena never worry about the quiet ones. They think silence means submission. But silence, when chosen, is strategy. The night before the wedding, I didn't sleep much. I lay in the guest room at my parents' house, listening to the distant hum of crickets and the occasional car on the road outside. The moonlight spilled across the floor, thin and silver, like a blade. I kept imagining her face, not when she got caught, but in the moments right before, when she still believed the world belonged to her, when she still believed I existed only in the shadows of her spotlight. I thought about the little girls we used to be, the nights she crawled into my bed because thunderstorms frightened her, the times I defended her on the playground, the secrets she whispered to me under blankets. I thought about the love I had for her, real, fragile love. And I thought about how she used that love like a leash. Grief twisted inside me. Not for the sister she was, but for the sister I once believed she could be. I wasn't doing this to be cruel or vindictive. I was doing this because I finally understood something painful and liberating. Protecting her had been destroying me. And tomorrow, I was going to stop protecting her, once and for all. The wedding morning, sunlight spilled over the vineyard. Soft, warm, almost too gentle for what was coming. Bridesmaids fluttered around the bridal suite, like nervous birds. Hairspray filled the air. Jewelry clinked. Laughter bubbled up, rehearsed and glossy. Lena stood in the center of the chaos, dressed in silk and lace, glowing as if the world was soft beneath her feet. She twirled, tossed her curls, smiled at her reflection. Perfect, she whispered. I approached with the veil. Long, delicate, almost transparent. Here, I said. She turned, lifting her chin so I could place it. As I adjusted the veil around her hair, my fingers brushed the small microphone clip hidden beneath the lace. Her own vanity had given me the opening. She insisted on a microphone for her vows. She said her voice deserved to be heard clearly. She had no idea what else the microphone would pick up. I straightened the fabric. Soft, careful. She looked at me through the mirror, smiling. You always take care of me, she said, and I whispered, my voice steady. Not today. She frowned. What? I smiled softly. Nothing. I finished adjusting the veil, my hands calm and precise. Everything was ready. Everything was in place. The stage, the audience, the lies, and the truth waiting beneath the lace. The last moment of mercy. Before we walked out for photos, I pulled Lena aside. Just the two of us. No bridesmaids, no cameras, just sisters. The smell of roses drifted through the open window. Her dress rustled softly as she turned to face me. I spoke quietly. Lena, are you sure you want to start your marriage like this? She blinked, confused, then annoyed. Start it like what? With lies. She laughed, as if I'd said something childish. Mara, please. This is my day. Can you not be dramatic for once? I held her gaze. This is your last chance to tell the truth, I whispered. She stared at me, eyes narrowing. I didn't steal anything from you, she hissed. I improved it. You should be flattered. A beat of silence. Then, and even if I did, no one would believe you. You're too emotional. People trust me. Those were her final words, before walking toward the ceremony. And in that moment, any remaining mercy inside me evaporated. The walk down the aisle. As she took her father's arm, the music began. Soft piano, gentle strings. A perfect soundtrack for a perfect illusion. Guests stood. Cameras lifted. Whispers of admiration drifted through the air. She glowed. Of course she did. She always glowed when she believed she had won. I walked behind her, holding the train of her gown. The closer we got to the altar, the lighter I felt. I watched Marcus's face as he saw her. He smiled, but there was something behind the smile, an uncertainty, a fracture. He looked at me briefly, a question in his eyes. I didn't answer it. Not yet. The vows begin. Marcus went first. His voice trembled with sincerity. He loved her. Despite everything, he did. Then Lena lifted her veil slightly, hand touching the hidden microphone. She spoke with a polished confidence, words dripping like honey. From the first moment I saw you, I knew we were meant to build something beautiful together, like the community center I designed. A gasp escaped someone in the front row. Marcus's mother. Lena kept going. I've always been a visionary, and you've always supported that vision? And then it happened. The speakers crackled. The microphone captured something she didn't say. Something she said days earlier. Her own voice. Cold. Sharp. Recorded perfectly. Mara wouldn't have a career if she didn't copy me. Everything she does, I did first. She's always been a step behind me. Whispers rippled across the guests. Lena froze. The audio continued. Her voice again. Be grateful, Mara. I've given you a role in my life when you could have easily been irrelevant. More gasps. Her father looked horrified. Her bridesmaids glanced at each other. Marcus's jaw clenched so hard I thought it might crack. And still, it wasn't over. Another clip played. Mara is too emotional. No one would ever believe her over me. Silence. Utter. Devastating. Silence. Lena stared at the speakers, like they had betrayed her personally. Her face drained of color. Her lips parted in shock. I watched her, calm, steady, and for the first time, she looked at me with genuine fear. Not anger, not annoyance. Fear, because she realized someone finally took the pen out of her hands, and the story was no longer hers. The silence that followed, the audio stopped, but the silence didn't. It spread through the vineyard like a shockwave. Tight, heavy, suffocating. A silence so complete, you could hear the wind pushing through the vines. The soft clink of a champagne flute trembling in someone's hand. My own heartbeat, steady in my chest, like it had been training for this moment my whole life. Lena stood frozen at the altar, veiled, breath-trapped, eyes wild behind the layers of lace. For the first time, she didn't know what to say. For the first time, she wasn't performing. She was exposed. Not by me, by herself. The guests turned. The whispers rose slowly. Soft at first, building like distant thunder. Did she just... was that her voice? She said that about her sister? God, I knew something felt off. That poor girl. She said no one would believe her. The words tangled, overlapped, echoed through the crowd. I watched my mother press a hand to her chest. My father's face tightened, years of denial cracking at the edges. The bridesmaids stared at their bouquets as if hoping to disappear, inside the petals. And Marcus looked broken. Not angry, not shocked, broken. Lena's first words. She finally tore her veil back, the lace snagging on her earrings as she yanked it. Mara, she screamed, but the microphone was still on. Her voice boomed, too loud, too disparity. Every head turned toward me. I didn't move. She stumbled toward me, dress dragging, face flushed with panic. You did this. You humiliated me. You ruined my wedding. Her voice cracked so harshly it stung the air. I tilted my head slightly. My voice was quiet, calm. I didn't say anything, Lena. Her breath hitched. I could see her brain scrambling. Not for truth, but for a narrative. For once, I said softly, it was you who spoke. The panic sets in. She looked around. For someone, anyone, to save her story. Mom, tell them. Tell them I didn't mean it like that. Tell them Mara twists things. She always... Our mother stepped forward, trembling. She reached for Lena's arm. Honey, just breathe. No! Lena jerked away. She set me up. She's jealous. Her voice ricocheted through the speakers. Ugly and raw. That was when the older guests, the ones who'd lived long enough to recognize the shape of truth, exchanged looks. The kind that said, this wasn't sabotage. This was honesty leaking out of a cracked facade. Marcus speaks. Marcus stepped forward, his tie slightly crooked, hands shaking, but not with confusion. With clarity. Lena, he said softly, did you say those things? I know, Marcus. Listen to me. She manipulated the audio. She's always been out to make me look bad. Did you say those things? He repeated. A simple question. But she couldn't answer, because she didn't know how to lie anymore, with the whole world watching. So she cried instead. Loud, dramatic sobs. Except crying doesn't work when the wound is self-inflicted, and everyone witnessed the blade in your hand. She tries to turn the crowd. She spun toward the guests, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You all know me, she shouted. You know I would never. That audio was fake. She's jealous of my success, of my wedding, of everything. She's always been. Her voice dissolved into hiccuped sobs. People watched her. No one moved. No one comforted her. Because that's the thing about exposure. Once people see the truth, they can't unsee it. The groom's mother steps forward. The crowd parted, as Marcus's mother walked deliberately toward the altar. Her posture was regal. Controlled, the kind of presence that didn't need to raise its voice to command attention. She reached Lena slowly, stopping just inches away. Her voice was quiet, but it sliced through the chaos like a blade. I asked you, days ago, about the community center design. Lena froze. And you looked me in the eye, she continued, and told me it was yours. Lena shook her head quickly. No, I meant that me and Mara, I only said that because you wouldn't understand. It's complicated. The older woman didn't flinch. She simply said, my son deserves honesty, and you don't know how to give it. The silence that followed was colder than any scream. Marcus makes a decision. Marcus exhaled. Slow, tired, like a man who'd finally stopped lying to himself. He stepped toward Lena, placed a gentle hand on her arm. She looked up, hopeful, but his voice broke her. I love you, he said. I really do, but I can't marry someone who builds her world on borrowed dreams. He swallowed hard. And lies about who she is? To everyone who loves her. Her face twisted. No, Marcus, please, you can't do this. I'm your bride. He shook his head. You were, he whispered. But the woman in those recordings, that wasn't insecurity. That was cruelty. She grabbed his jacket, fingers shaking. Marcus. He stepped back. A clean, final step. I'm sorry. He turned away. And that was the moment she broke. Truly broke. Hennisbugl. She collapsed onto the altar steps, dress pulling around her like a defeated ghost. She looks at me. Through tears, through smeared makeup, through a lifetime of entitlement, she glared at me. You ruined everything, she whispered. I didn't move, didn't blink. I just spoke the truth. I'd carried in my lungs for years. No, Lena, you ruined everything. The moment you decided my voice was yours to use. She gasped, and the sound wasn't anger. It was recognition. It was the moment she realized I wasn't her shadow anymore. The crowd exodus. The officiant tried to speak. Failed. Gave up. Guests began to leave slowly. In stunned silence, confusion, pity, whispers trailing behind like footprints. Her bridesmaids avoided her eyes. Her friends stepped back, one by one. Marcus walked away with his mother, his face pale, his wedding ring still in the box. My parents stood rooted in place, shocked and ashamed. And Lena still sat on the steps, shaking. Her world, the one she built from stolen pieces, crumbling around her. What I saw in her face, not guilt, not remorse, just disbelief. Disbelief that she wasn't untouchable anymore. Disbelief that her beauty didn't shield her. Disbelief that someone she underestimated could dismantle her so quietly. And for the first time in my life, I saw her not as my sister, but as a woman who'd grown addicted to taking, a woman who believed consequences were for other people. And I realized something. I didn't break her. I just stopped protecting her from the consequences she earned. The private moment, after most of the guests left, I walked toward her. Slow, measured. She didn't look up. Her shoulders shook with small, uneven sobs. The kind that no longer sought sympathy, just air. He crouched beside her, not close enough to offer comfort, just close enough to be heard. She whispered, "Why'd you do it? Why today?" I took a breath. Because even in revenge, truth should be soft. "You stole something from me," I said quietly, "and you never stopped." She wiped her nose, fingers trembling. "But we're sisters." I nodded. "We were." She inhaled sharply, a small, wounded sound. I continued, "Sometimes the people you love become the people you need to let go of, so you can finally breathe." Her voice cracked. I didn't think it mattered. I closed my eyes for a moment. That was the problem. The walk away. I stood, my legs stiff from crouching, the breeze lifting the hem of my dress. I looked at her one last time. The sister I loved, the woman she became, the stranger she turned into. Then I turned my back and walked away from the altar. Each step felt lighter, cleaner, as if I were shedding the weight of years, of invisibility. People looked at me as I passed, some with sympathy, others with respect. No one looked through me anymore. The final shock. I reached the exit. As I touched the wooden doors, the sound technician hurried after me. "You forgot something," he said, handing me the USB. I took it gently. "Thank you." He hesitated. "You know, I've worked a lot of weddings, seen every kind of drama. But this," he shook his head, "this was justice." I gave him a small, quiet smile. "Justice doesn't always feel good," I murmured, "but it always feels right." He nodded, and I walked outside, into the cool afternoon air, the sun dipping behind the hills. The world felt different, wide, open, mine. For the first time, fully mine. The drive away, I got into my car, hands steady on the wheel. Before turning the ignition, I looked back at the venue one last time. Guests still drifting out. Photographers packing their equipment, the archway of flowers swaying in the breeze. And inside, my sister, learning, finally, that the world doesn't bend for her. I whispered to myself, "She stole my story." I rewrote the ending. Then I drove away. Not fast, not triumphant, just free. The first night after the wedding, I thought I'd sleep like a stone that night. Finally unburdened, finally free. But sleep didn't come easily. Not because I regretted anything. Not because guilt clawed at me. Not even because I replayed the collapse over and over. It was quieter than that. It was the sensation of walking out of a burning house and realizing I didn't know what the world looked like without smoke. I lay awake in the dark, listening to the old creaks in my parents' house, feeling the cool cotton of the sheets against my skin, breathing slowly, intentionally. For the first time in years, there was no version of my sister, whispering in my ear, telling me I was imagining things, that I was dramatic, that I was jealous. Just my own voice, just truth, just quiet. Unexpectedly, the quiet was loud. It filled the room in a way I wasn't used to. An unfamiliar companion. After years of swallowing my thoughts, so hers could echo louder, I finally drifted to sleep close to dawn. The morning after, sunlight slid across the floorboards. Yellow, warm, indifferent to whatever chaos had unfolded the day before. I could hear the TV murmuring downstairs. My mother never handled silence well. When I finally went down, My father sat at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee clutched between his hands, like it might anchor him. My mother turned when she saw me. Her expression was unreadable. A storm cloud unsure whether to rain or rumble. "Mara," she started, soft, brittle. I poured myself tea. Let the steam rise. Didn't rush. When I finally met her eyes, she swallowed hard. "What you did yesterday," she hesitated, searching for a gentler word, "was unnecessary." I didn't answer. She brushed invisible crumbs off the counter. Her voice sharpened. "You humiliated your sister on the most important day of her life." I took a slow sip of tea. "Lena humiliated herself," I said quietly. My father shifted in his chair. My mother stiffened. "Those recordings were real," I cut in. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. "We don't air family problems in public." I almost laughed. Soft, humorless. "Then maybe," I said, "we should stop creating so many problems in private." Silence. My father cleared his throat, his voice rough. "Honey, maybe we should talk about this later." "No," my mother snapped. "This is not how we raised you, Mara." I set my mug down gently. "No," I said softly. "You raised me to keep quiet." Her eyes widened. With hurt? With denial? With recognition? I didn't stay long enough to find out. I left home. I packed my bags. Moved everything into my car. They didn't stop me. Maybe they didn't know how. Maybe they thought I'd come back inside, like I always did. Like the steady daughter, the invisible one, the one who swallowed her anger so the family peace wouldn't crack. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I drove back to the city, windows down, wind tangling my hair, the radio off so I could listen. To my own breathing. I didn't cry. Not once. Not because I was heartless, but because there was nothing left to cry out. Some wounds scar over so deeply that the tears dry before they ever reach the surface. The days that followed, people love the idea of revenge because they imagine triumph, victory, applause from the universe. But the reality? It's Keter. Slower, more like settling dust than fireworks. The days after the wedding felt strangely empty. Not sad, not joyful, just spacious. I went back to work, redrew plans, sat in meetings, listened to colleagues talk about deadlines and renderings, as if nothing monumental had shifted inside me. And maybe they were right. Maybe the only person who truly changed was me. An unexpected message. 3 days after the wedding, my phone buzzed as I was leaving the office. A number I didn't recognize. The message was short. "Can we talk?" Marcus. I stared at it for a long moment. Not with dread, not with curiosity, just a quiet acceptance that this conversation had been inevitable. I replied, "Where?" He sent the name of a small cafe near the river. A peaceful place. Winter sunlight always hit the windows at a beautiful angle there. We met that evening. The meeting with Marcus. He was already seated when I arrived, hands wrapped around a mug he wasn't drinking from. When he looked up, his eyes were tired. He gestured for me to sit. For a few seconds, we just breathed in the same space. Not as co-conspirators, not as acquaintances, not as anything familiar. Just two people who'd walked through the same storm and come out on opposite shores. He spoke first. "Thank you." He blinked. Slow. "For what?" "For telling the truth," he said, "even if it hurt." I looked down at my hands. They were her words, not mine. "I know." He exhaled, a long, weary breath. I spent months defending her, ignoring the small lies, explaining away the big ones, convincing myself she was just insecure. He rubbed his forehead. "But the way she talked about you, that wasn't insecurity. That was entitlement." I didn't respond. It continued. I kept thinking, if you and I had switched places, you never would have humiliated her publicly. You would have told me privately. You would have tried to protect her. I met his eyes. I did. For years. He nodded slowly. understanding sinking in like a stone. Then he asked something I wasn't prepared for. Do you hate her? I thought about that. Truly thought. The girl I once protected. The teenager who borrowed my clothes. The woman who stole my dreams. The bride whose illusions I shattered. I finally answered, no. Hate would mean she still has a place inside me. He stared at me for a long moment, as if that sentence told him everything he needed to know. The question he feared to ask. He hesitated. Then, do you think she ever loved me? I swallowed. That's a question she needs to answer, I said softly. Not me. He nodded, looked out the window, and when he looked back, his voice was quieter. You know, I knew something was wrong. Every time I mentioned your name, she'd tense, like she was afraid of something. She was, I murmured. She was afraid of being seen. His eyes widened slightly, not in surprise, in recognition, because he'd seen it too. He just hadn't named it. Before we parted ways, he said, you did what I couldn't. I shook my head. No, I just stopped doing what I shouldn't. We left the cafe separately. No lingering glances. No budding romance. No cliché tenderness. Just closure. Clean. Quiet. Necessary. The message from my sister. 2 weeks passed before Lena reached out. Not a call. Not a visit. A single, trembling message. I need to talk to you. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I owed her a reply. I didn't. Not anymore. But because some wounds demand a final stitch before they can fully close. I replied, at the old pier. Tomorrow morning. Neutral territory. A place we used to go as kids. A place where secrets felt safe. I didn't sleep much that night. Not from fear. Not from dread. From certainty. The pier. The morning was gray. Fog hung low over the water, curling around the wooden posts, like a soft, sad blanket. Lena was already there, sitting on the bench, hair tied back messily, no makeup, Eises wollen, not from vanity, but from real crying. It was the first time I'd seen her look human. In years. Not perfect, not curated, just a girl who had lost herself. She didn't look at me when I walked up. I sat beside her, not close, not far, just enough. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, I hate how you looked at me. I didn't respond. She swallowed, voice wavering, like I was a stranger. Pause, like I deserved it. I turned my head slightly. You did, I said softly. She flinched. A small, painful movement. Her breath fogged in front of her. Then, I didn't know it hurt you that much. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I said, you did know. You just didn't care. Her eyes filled again. I'm sorry, she whispered. It didn't hit me the way it once would have. Years too late. Too small. Too light for the weight it tried to lift. But I nodded. Not forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. She stared out at the water. I thought if I made myself look bigger, she whispered, I wouldn't feel so small. That's not how you grow, I said. Her voice cracked. I know. Another long silence. Carried by the ocean, by wind, by years of unspoken truths. Then she asked the question she feared most. Can we fix this? I inhaled. Slow, steady, full of a truth she wasn't ready for. No, I said, soft, final. Her breath hitched. A tiny sob escaped. I continued, we can move forward. Separately, and maybe someday. From a distance, that will be enough. She nodded, shoulders shaking. Not with anger, with acceptance. And in that moment, I realized something quietly profound. Some stories don't need a shared ending to still have meaning. The final goodbye. She stood first, wiped her cheeks, took a shaky breath. When she spoke, her voice was small. Thank you for meeting me. I nodded. Take care of yourself, Lena. She hesitated, as if waiting for an invitation that would never come. When it didn't, she walked away. Her footsteps faded across the wooden pier until she disappeared into the fog. I stayed a while longer, letting the cold air settle into my lungs, letting the last threads of our old relationship untangle quietly. There was no relief, no triumph, just space. A wide, open space where I could finally build something new. The rebuild begins. In the weeks that followed, my life didn't transform dramatically. There were no cinematic montages, no sudden success, no overnight healing, just slow, steady rebuilding, the kind architects understand best. I worked harder, sketched more, submitted designs with a confidence I hadn't touched in years. I began eating regularly again, sleeping better, laughing occasionally, at things that had nothing to do with survival. I wasn't new. I wasn't reborn. I was simply unbordened, which is its own kind of rebirth. The unexpected news. 3 months later, an email came through. I'd won the national competition. The design Lena once stole from me, the blueprint she tried to claim, had found its rightful home. My home? When I saw my name printed on the official announcement, I felt something warm bloom in my chest. Not pride, not vindication. Belonging. The design was mine again, fully. Finally, I imagined the future building, children running through hallways of sunlight, families gathering in rooms I shaped, people breathing in a space created from truth. Not theft, not lies. Truth. That was the greatest revenge of all. The surprising message? A week later, I received another message from Marcus. Short, gentle. Congratulations. I always knew it was yours. I smiled at my phone, not with longing, not with nostalgia, with gratitude. Sometimes the people we meet aren't meant to stay. They're meant to be witnesses to a version of ourselves we almost lost. The quiet epilogue of Part Kate. My sister's life didn't end because of what happened. She wasn't destroyed. She wasn't exiled. She was simply forced to face herself. A year from now, maybe she'll be softer, kinder, more honest. Or maybe she won't. But that's no longer my story to carry. My story is this. I built myself back from foundations she tried to claim. I rebuilt my strength from the silence she stole. And I learned, slowly, painfully, beautifully, that sometimes the greatest revenge is reclaiming the pieces of yourself you once believed were gone, all without ever raising your voice. The months that followed, the strangest part of healing is how quiet it is. No fireworks, no applause, no dramatic crescendo, just days. Days where I woke up without the heaviness I once thought was normal. Days where my mind didn't replay my sister's voice like a scratched record. Days where the silence in my apartment finally felt like peace, and not punishment. I didn't realize how much of my life had been shaped around someone else's expectations, until I finally stepped out of her shadow. Slowly, the world felt bigger. Colors sharpened. Food tasted real again. Even the city noise horns, chatter, the distant rumble of construction, felt grounding instead of overwhelming. I'd forgotten what it meant to live without tension in my shoulders, to breathe without apology. Reclaiming my life wasn't a dramatic event. It was 1,000 tiny choices to trust myself again. And those choices built something stronger than revenge ever could, a self worth keeping. The community center breaking ground. 3 months later, I stood in front of an empty lot, holding a hard hat and a rolled blueprint with my name printed on the corner. My name, not hidden, not stolen, not whispered in the margins of someone else's spotlight. The mayor shook my hand. Board members congratulated me. Photographers snapped photos. But the moment that mattered most was standing alone on the gravel afterward, wind blowing dust around my shoes. I unrolled the blueprint. My hand brushed over the lines. Symmetry, light, purpose. A building that would glow from the inside, the way I once dreamed home should feel, When I was a little girl, a building born from truth. A building that belonged to me, in every possible way. And somewhere deep inside, a knot loosened. A knot I'd been carrying since childhood. Then the article came out. The local paper interviewed me for the project launch. A small feature, 2 pages. A headline that made my chest tighten. Local architect reclaims her story with award-winning design. I didn't expect it to matter. Local papers rarely ripple far. But this one did, because someone clipped it, posted it online, added the wedding context, and the story spread. Not viral, but enough. Enough that people in our hometown saw it. Enough that people who once praised my sister began asking quiet questions. Enough that my parents could no longer pretend they didn't see the truth. It wasn't about humiliation. It was about visibility. People finally saw me. Not as Lena's sister, as Mara, as myself. The call from my mother. 2 weeks after the article circulated, my mother called. Her voice sounded older than I remembered. Not frail, just tired. Your father and I, we read the interview, she said. I didn't reply, didn't offer comfort, didn't rescue her from her discomfort. She continued, I think I owe you an apology. The words hung in the air. Fragile. Rare? Which part? I asked softly. Are you apologizing for? She inhaled, shaky. For not protecting you, she whispered. For letting your sister take so much. For not seeing how much you were hurting. A long pause. And for teaching you that silence was the best way to survive. I closed my eyes. That apology wasn't perfect, but it was honest. That mattered more. We didn't understand, she said. We thought you were stronger than her. I was, I whispered. Just not in the way you meant. Her breath caught. Can we try again? She asked. Slow, careful, gentle. We can try, I said, but it'll take time. She accepted that, which told me she was finally listening. The message from Lena. A month of silence passed before my sister reached out again. Not with defensiveness this time, not with performance, or self-justification, or thinly veiled accusations. Just a simple text. I know I can't be your sister again, but I want to be someone better. For myself, even if you're not in my life. Thank you for making me face it. I stared at the message for a long time. It didn't feel manipulative. It didn't feel rehearsed. It felt real. I typed a single response. I hope you become someone you can live with. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just truth. And truth was enough. The life I built without her. The months rolled forward like gentle waves. I moved into a new apartment. Small, sunlit, with wide windows and a balcony that overlooked a row of blooming jacarandas. I placed plants on the sill, started cooking again, bought fresh flowers for no reason, other than the quiet joy they brought. I met new people, friends, colleagues, people who saw me without the weight of any old stories. I wasn't reinvented. I was restored. And the woman I became wasn't shaped by betrayal. She was shaped by release. Then came the unexpected invitation. A year after the collapsed wedding, I received a letter from the committee of the national competition. A formal event, black tie, celebrating the completion of the first stage of the community center construction. And they wanted me as the keynote speaker. When I stepped into the event hall, polished floors, dim lights, the low hum of chatter, I felt a strange flutter inside me. Not fear, not performance anxiety, something lighter, something like arrival. I stood on stage, looked out at the audience, faces lit softly by warm sconces, eyes focused, waiting. When I spoke, my voice was steady, clear. My design, I said, was born from understanding the difference between being invisible and being silent. A few heads tilted, listening deeper. For most of my life, I confused the two. I thought not speaking meant strength. grace, family loyalty. But silence is not strength when it protects the wrong things. The room went still. Sometimes, I continued, the most powerful thing you can do is step out of the shadow someone else built for you, even if they call it love. Somewhere in the crowd, someone exhaled audibly, a soft sound, a shared understanding, and as I finished, applause rose like a slow wave. Not roaring, not frantic, warm, respectful, earned, the kind of applause that reaches you instead of swallowing you. The quiet confrontation, the hardest part of this story, never happened at the wedding. It happened months later. At the community center site, I wasn't expecting to see her, but there she was, standing near the fence, hair tied back, jacket loose around her shoulders. Lena. She looked smaller, not physically, just softer around the edges. Like life had finally pressed pause on her constant performance. She noticed me, didn't look away, didn't run. We stood facing each other with the raw, uncomfortable honesty we'd been avoiding since childhood. She spoke first. "You look happy." I nodded. "I am." She swallowed. "I'm working on myself." "I hope you do," I said, genuinely. She rubbed her arms against the cold. "I don't expect anything from you," she added quietly. "I just wanted you to know I'm trying." I believed her. Not because she was convincing, but because she wasn't asking for forgiveness. She wasn't bargaining. She wasn't spinning a narrative. She was simply standing there, a woman facing herself for the first time. That was enough. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We didn't promise a future. We just existed in the same space, without past wounds screaming between us. She finally nodded, stepped back, and walked away. And for the first time, her absence didn't hurt. It felt natural, necessary, right. The woman I became. Sometimes I walk past mirrors and barely recognize the woman reflected back. Not because she looks different, although she does, in small ways. Her posture is straighter, her eyes softer, her presence fuller. It's the calm that surprises me. A calm I once believed belonged only to other people. People who weren't born into the shadows of brighter siblings. People who didn't learn early that love came with conditions. People whose worth wasn't measured by how well they stayed quiet. I built this calm myself, brick by brick, choice by choice, truth by truth, and I will protect it with the same fierceness I once used to protect my sister. But this time, the shield is pointed in the right direction. What I learned, that revenge isn't fire. It's clarity. It's the moment you realize you don't need to hurt someone to take your life back. You just need to stop letting them decide who you are. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply becoming the person they never believed you could be. Honest, whole, visible, unapologetically visible. The final scene, on the day the community center opened, children ran through the front doors with the kind of joy that rattles a building's bones in the best possible way. I stood near the entrance, watched sunlight flood the lobby through the skylights I designed. Warm, golden, alive. My design, my vision, my story, built into the very walls. A volunteer approached me. "Are you the architect?" she asked. For the first time in my life, I didn't shrink away from the spotlight. I smiled. "Yes," I said, "I am." "Her expression softened. It's beautiful," she whispered. I looked around, at the light, the color, the people breathing inside the space I created. And for the first time in years, I felt no ghost of my sister hovering over my shoulder. No expectation, no comparison, no stolen reflection. Just me, just truth, just the quiet, solid power of someone who finally understands what she's worth. And as the doors opened wider, letting laughter spill out into the world. I whispered to myself, not as a curse, not as a triumph, but as a soft declaration. I didn't round her. I just stopped protecting her from consequences. And then, she stole my story. I rewrote the ending. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.